I was wrong, the PSP isn't the best console for everyday carry. It's actually this, the Sony PS Vita, and for the past 3 weeks or so, this has been everywhere with me, from every cafe visit and hotel room stay and even every car journey, and honestly, it's been awesome. I might actually never go back to my original PSP because this has been so good. So let's talk about the games, the super weird hardware that Sony built into here, and what it's like to use as a console in 2025. Also, this experiment started as me trying to get off my phone, and look where we've ended up. Anyway, let's talk about the Vita. Let's talk about the hardware first, and there's quite a lot for it to live up to here because I don't have any nostalgia for this console, so it's got to stand up on its own merits, and I actually think it really does. This is a huge upgrade over the PSP in pretty much every single way you can think about. The biggest upgrade for sure though is the OLED screen. This thing looks stunning compared to the last PSP consoles, and it's even a touch screen as well. It gets much brighter and the colours are just so much nicer. You're also getting the dual analog sticks on here, which is a huge upgrade over the nub on the original PSP. There's cameras on the front and back, but the weirdest part of this hardware though is the back panel is entirely touch sensitive. So that means in some games you can control them with the back of the console just by dragging your finger over them. It's such a strange feature to implement, but in some games it works quite well. There's loads of other little features for the hardware as well. There's a gyroscope so you can control games with motion, there's Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, and of course they've got Sony's own proprietary memory card which sits in the bottom. Oh, on some models you can even get a SIM card slot and a 3G reception if that's something you felt like you needed on the PS Vita. All of that added up to me feels like a direct response to the mobile phone market at the time. This was released in 2011 and iPhone games and Android phones were taking off massively, and all of those were touch based, so I can see this as a direct kind of gut reaction to it. Even the design of this kind of reminds me of like a Samsung Galaxy S3. It's kind of even got the same sort of software style, which just very much mimics a phone of the time, and the rounded edges and things like that. They even had some pretty questionable ads to try and get people to play this instead of their phones, and even more questionable ones to get people excited to use this back panel. Yeesh. Overall though, I think the design is really good. I still actually kind of prefer the weird boxiness of the original PSP, but there's no doubt about it, this is a more comfortable console to play, even with the smaller face buttons. And it still passes the ultra portable kind of test as well. I can slip this into my old PSP case and I can slide that into the side of my bag, and it doesn't feel like I'm carrying anything extra with me, which I really like. And of course I transferred over my Mega Man charm as well. Moving over to the modding scene, things are alive and well when it comes to the PS Vita. But what I did notice here is there's a lot less hardware mods than there was for the original PSP, and I think it's because the hardware out the gate on the PS Vita is actually pretty good. I think a lot of that is because the screen is decent, so no one's going in there and replacing them, which often invites other mods as well. But that's not to say there aren't many. You can still do a shell swap, which I see a lot of people do, and one of the big ones which I'd love to do at some point is to change the bottom port to a USB-C one, because it's Sony's weird proprietary one, which is just frustrating to use. Something that's really worth doing is getting a micro SD card adapter for the game slot on the PS Vita, and that lets you open up loads and loads and loads of other stuff, loads of gigabytes of storage and things like that. But of course the huge one here is to get custom firmware running on here, and once you've done that, I'm just going to put it this way, you're not going to have any trouble playing your PS Vita or PSP or any other old game backups on here. As for the mods I've got running on mine, I picked this up off eBay and it arrived basically completely ready to go, even to the point where I can boot into a PSP mode and emulate an entire PSP on here, which just feels completely wild to me. This is absolutely insane. It's also got a really active community over on r/PS Vita Hacks, where people are still doing all sorts of crazy things with it. One of the crazier things I did see is people getting PC games like Cuphead and Celeste to run on here, which is just completely wild. Alright, let's talk about the games that I have been playing on here, and I know I keep comparing this to the PSP, but I have to bring out the comfort here because this is so much more enjoyable to play when it comes to actually diving into a game. The dual analog sticks feel really great, and even though the buttons are a bit smaller on the face, they're actually completely fine to press, and more games do lean into the analog sticks, which I actually kind of prefer. The only things I dislike is the home button and the start and select are so tiny and small that they're actually trickier to press, which I don't love. But overall, as a sit down play sort of thing, this feels great in the hand and I really like it. I've also got to call out the music it plays on the home screen because I absolutely love it. I could listen to that all day. As for the games though, I really wanted to lean into the games which kind of lent into the hardware, and one of the ones I was excited to play, and I remember seeing adverts and stuff for it at the time, is Gravity Rush. I always wanted to play this game. It just looks so weird and interesting to me, and the idea of controlling gravity to kind of fly your character around this kind of cityscape was a really interesting concept. And I actually really enjoyed this game. It's not like anything else I've kind of played, and that made it really interesting. And you can use the gyroscope on here to control the character, but I didn't end up liking that too much. But it does use the touchscreen quite a lot in interactions and things like that. And I really like the art style. I think this was a good looking game, and it was very much leaning into kind of the whole weirdness of the PS Vita. So Gravity Rush was probably the game I played the most and enjoyed the most too. Moving on from there, I played a game called Tearaway, and oh my god, this game blew me away. And I think this was probably the perfect showcase of what the PS Vita can do, because it kind of leans into everything. You can use the touchscreen to open presents, and on the back, when you've got this touch panel, you actually control so much of the game through that. So one of the best examples is you put your finger on the touch panel, and then on the game your finger actually breaks through, and then you drag your finger around to kind of change stuff in the game. And also while you're doing that, the cameras activate, so while your finger's pushed through, you can actually see the environment behind you, so it really feels like you're kind of going through the game. It's super interesting, super weird. Your face is also used in it loads with the front facing camera, so whenever the sun rises up it just shows your face in it, which got a laugh out of me every single time. There's my face, look. Hey! And the gameplay was a lot of fun as well. The writing made me laugh, and yeah, it was just a decent little platforming title, which was a really good showcase of the PS Vita, so I enjoyed that a lot too. And finally, the other big game I played, which I felt like I had to, was the Uncharted Golden Abyss. This was more of kind of like a graphical showcase for the PS Vita, and it's definitely pushing it to its limit. This game looks fantastic, and for all intents and purposes, this is kind of a very PS3 sort of era Uncharted game, and it played really well. This was the first one though that I thought all of the kind of touch stuff, especially on the touchscreen and the back, just felt like a bit gimmicky and not very useful, and I think that game probably could have just ignored it. But it was still interesting to play, and like I say, a massive showcase for the graphical power of this for sure. I also got to play a little bit of Jet Set Radio on here, which is a game I absolutely loved on my Dreamcast, so playing that again was a huge amount of fun, and the fact that it was even on here when I bought it, I couldn't believe it. And lastly, I did jump back into Bloodstained Curse of the Moon, which was a game I played through on Xbox, which is kind of like a Castlevania reimagining in the 8-bit style, which is actually a really good game. I'm kind of sad the full one didn't come to PS Vita, but this little version of it was really fun too. So the gaming experience on here was really good, but I did notice the battery life fluctuated really heavily depending on what you're doing. So on those bigger titles I was getting around 2 to 3 hours it felt like, but on those smaller titles it would go anywhere from like 4, 5, 6 hours or so. Now 2 or 3 hours is usually absolutely fine for me, but it is a bit of a shame. And I will call out the standby time as well. It's fantastic as well. You can put this into sleep mode and it will last like a week on there, no problem, which I always love to see. Okay, so something on here I really want to test is the cameras. There's one on the front, and you can probably see me here, hello, and there's one on the back as well. I'm meeting a friend for lunch who's just actually got his Nintendo Switch 2 and he wants to grab a case for it, so I'm going to vlog the whole thing on the PS Vita. So if I pop that down, and then what I'm going to do is in 3, 2, 1, I'm going to switch to the PS Vita, and we'll go from there. So let's go.
Yeah. Hello, it's all about the Karate Kid.
Again. Right, what are we here for, Sam?
We're here for a Switch 2 case.
Look! Here it all is. Zelda, Art World. Pretty exciting. You got a case? Smile.
It's an empty box.
One case for Super Sammy.
Well, and this.
Are you actually going to get that?
I'm tempted. Well, what's frustrating, Tom, is that's from Sonic 2 and Shadow isn't in that.
Why can they never get anything right? Okay, the only thing I don't like about these cameras is on the old PSP camera I could flip the camera around like this, so I could film from the front or the back and it wouldn't have to interrupt anything. But on here I have to film either front facing or I have to stop filming, switch the camera to film out the back, which feels like a shame. But otherwise, I think they do look a bit nicer. Hey, Editing Tom here. I actually quite enjoy making little vlogs like that sort of footage, but I must admit, I think the original PSP camera gave a nicer result. It was widescreen for once, and everything felt a little bit more saturated and a bit nicer. And for photos as well, this had a nice kind of digicam vibe to it, whereas the PS Vita just looked really washed out and horrible. The only place where this fell down was the microphone quality on the PS Vita was much nicer. It wasn't quite so nice on here. But yeah, these have definitely got a bit of a vibe to them. I'm sure some people would really love shooting a whole vlog and loads of photos like this and just leaning into it, but for me it's just something fun to test out, and I don't think I'd ever use it seriously. Anyway, let's go back to the video. Let's talk about things I didn't enjoy on here, or things which are just kind of rubbish in modern times. Straight off the bat, it's got to be the in and out. The ports on the top and the bottom are Sony's proprietary ones, and it's such a shame to see, because if this was trying to get people off phones, then I think mini USB would have been the way to go here. And while I love that it's got Bluetooth support, it's laggy, so you can't really play a game with Bluetooth headphones in, because the action happens and then a sound happens just a microsecond later, and it's just no good for that at all. It's fine for movies and for listening to music and things like that, but for gaming, it's no good at all. The baked in battery as well is a bit of a shame. When you're coming from loads of these older retro consoles, getting new batteries in there is no problem at all. But if you want to mod the battery, or if you want to do anything else with it, you have to take the entire system apart and do soldering and things like that. And while I did enjoy the touchscreen and the back touchscreen and the two cameras, I get the impression that a lot of developers initially loved that and then just slowly didn't bother with it. In the same way that things went off the boil for the Wii, where you just used to waggle the controller, I get the impression that a lot of later games probably completely ignored those features as well. And lastly, and I know it's a bit of a ridiculous thing to say, but I actually preferred the vibe of the original PSP. And I felt like for the time, this thing was absolutely incredible and people really, really loved it. Whereas the PS Vita, while still great, I don't think it ever kind of saw the same love as the original PSP. If you're new to this little series of mine where I'm looking at these retro consoles, the concept initially started off as an idea to get me less addicted to my phone and to use my time more mindfully. And a lot of people have mentioned in the comments you're just swapping out one screen for another, so what's the difference? And to me, I kind of really disagree with that statement, because when I'm playing games, especially ones like this, I'm not tempted to jump over to social media or to look at any of those things and to quickly start doom scrolling again. As a creator, I get so many notifications a day and it's so easy to get sucked into that, and at the end of it, I don't feel any better for it. But when I'm playing a game or something that I really connect with, it's not only kind of like mindfulness for me, but it's also a huge source of inspiration. If you've seen how I film stuff here on the channel, or how I approach my work or projects or things like that, and especially design work, a lot of that is heavily inspired by the games that I play, the art styles, the directions, the ideas and thoughts that they bring across. So not only am I getting enjoyment out of playing the game, but I'm also thinking of ways I can do things differently here. I really do think there's a good crossover, or at least there is for me. And you might be thinking, oh Tom, that's all well and good, but why are you spending money on the old PlayStation Vita and things like that when you could just pick up something like this, a Miyoo Mini, or one of the many other retro emulators you can get out of there? They've all got better screens, buttons, USB-C, rechargeable, and all of those good things, and they 100% are. I completely understand that, and I even do have a Miyoo Mini Plus, which I've had for a couple of years now, and at the time when I got this, I played it a lot. But I tended to find when I had one of these, it quickly became a case of what can I get running on it, and how many games can I stuff on here, rather than just enjoying the games that I have access to. The PSP was really good for that, because I was buying UMDs, and it was the same with the Game Boy, when I was just buying games for that and finding my old ones and asking friends and family if they had any games I could play as well. And yes, I know I could just put on like 2 or 3 games and just deal with that, but that kind of doesn't feel the same to me. And to be honest, I enjoy leaning into that retro aesthetic. You know, a lot of that is my complete childhood, so nostalgia's doing a lot of the heavy lifting too. Okay, to wrap up this, I will say, of all the retro consoles I've tried, the PS Vita has absolutely been the best one, by not even a small margin. The hardware is basically perfect, it's still nice and small and slips into any bag or even some coat pockets, which I like, and the games on it have been really fantastic, and the fact that it can kind of play a lot of older stuff too makes it a really great EDC console. And while I have enjoyed owning this console, I do feel I'm getting a little bit lost again in terms of what I'm trying to do here. You know, I'm trying to get off my phone and just to enjoy playing 1 or 2 games on the move. And the PS Vita really does kind of open the floodgates for doing a lot more with it. So I think I need to personally get better at managing what I should be doing on a PS Vita rather than kind of looking at all the stuff that I could be doing, because the older consoles didn't really have that issue. And once again, I didn't really feel the same level of joy as I did with the original PSP. Now this could be nostalgia talking, I've owned this since 2006, or it could be the fact that I could go hunting for UMD movies and games in local shops in my town as well, which I really enjoyed. But the overall experience on the PS Vita was way better, and I heavily recommend looking into one if you've got one kicking around at home, or if you just want a really good EDC console to take with you everywhere that's nice and small, still plenty powerful, and can play a huge amount of really good games. This has been awesome. So that basically wraps up the video. I'd love to know what you'd like to see next in terms of retro things, whether you'd like me to look at that Sega Saturn, which I'm still really heavily considering getting, or if you want me to just do a kind of rating of all of these retro consoles that I've got kicking around and, you know, kind of see which one I recommend the most, because now I've got absolutely loads. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, pop a like, that'd be amazing, and I will see you all in the next one.